this memory of blood pouring out of my face onto the ground. We were all gonna die.
I knew I'd be bitten. Panic, fear, terror. You're scared.
It was so completely overpowering. He just ripped my face off. I told myself I'd rather die.
It's everyone's worst nightmare, being eaten alive by a wild animal. In this episode, 3 remarkable stories of people who've been savaged by distant cousins of man's best friend. What's it like to become human prey? On a canoeing holiday in the Canadian wilderness, the DELVENTHAL family was savagely attacked by a lone wolf.
There was nothing we could do to stop a wolf that wanted to eat us.
Algonquin Park, Ontario. A vast landscape of forests, lakes, and rivers. A popular destination for hikers and nature lovers. And home to predators, including the eastern wolf.
The conventional wisdom in North America is that wolves are basically harmless. But it became crystal clear that there were circumstances under which the wolves would be dangerous.
This adult wolf has been expelled from his pack. Forced to fend for himself, he's become an opportunistic predator, scavenging kills and raiding campsites. And he's starting to lose his natural fear of people.
That's it. Just keep paddling straight on in. How you doing, guys? Yeah, just follow me in.
The DELVENTHAL family is near the end of a 9-day canoe trip to some of the park's most remote areas.
All right, then.
We wanted to get away from people, get away from human contact, really get as much as possible into nature to appreciate it as a family.
Yeah, dig right in there.
It had been one of the best trips, probably one of the high points of our lives together as a family.
As the day ends, the DELVENTHALs look for a place to set up camp.
Hey, Tracy, how about right over here? The perfect spot, isn't it? Great job, guys. Well
They're
done.
unaware that something else has also picked this site.
Get ourselves a camp set up, keep the fire going.
The wolf gravitated to the campsite because that was a place where in the past it may have smelled food, experienced food.
Although both parents just want to kick back and relax, their older boys have plans of their own.
We wanted to go out on the water and see the sunset. And our parents had very strict rule that me and my brother Eli were not allowed out in the canoes without one of them in the canoe. So we needed to convince one of our parents to go out with us.
What do you say, Mom?
We're gonna stay here and make dinner, and you boys go ahead.
Tom and his 2 older sons set off in the canoe. He has no idea a hungry wolf may now be sizing up their little brother.
About 80% of the attacks are aimed at children. And children are being taken while they are still struggling and screaming and are being carried off.
As Tom and his boys paddle further away from their campsite, they bump into other canoeists who tell them about an old Algonquin Park tradition,
You ready? Let's do it.
the wolf call.
We sort of bunched all the canoes together and started howling, you know, more or less in unison, doing our best to sound like wolves.
When you howl, you let the pack know that you are another wolf and you're encroaching on its territory.
The lone wolf closes in, possibly worried that rivals may attempt to steal his tempting evening meal.
The
forest around the site was really thick. You couldn't see into the forest at all. And I heard something and just saw the side of something.
Tom arrives back with his older sons. The wolf is likely scared away for now.
All right, boys, time for bed. We got a long day tomorrow.
It's been such a perfect evening that Tom and Tracy decide not to pitch the tents. The DELVENTHALs will sleep under the stars. But sleeping outside makes the family vulnerable.
My mom put Willem, who was only 3, in between me and Eli, who were considerably larger than him. Me, Willem, and Eli were down in our own little group.
And I am going to sleep like a log.
Tom and I, we were lying out under the stars and agreed that it was the most peaceful, grounded, safe that we'd ever felt in our lives. And talked about how blessed we were, that this was a glorious place.
There is something quite wonderful about lying down and seeing the stars, but I was 12 and I was a little bit more scared of the world and scared of the dark.
The ravenous wolf bides his time. He waits until the family is still. His sights are firmly set on the children.
I was dreaming that I was walking through the woods with my parents, and it was sunny, and we were just sort of walking and talking.
Finally, the wolf makes his move. He zeroes in on the most accessible prey, Zach.
While I was dreaming, there was definitely a sensation of pressure on my face.
The wolf, as a killing machine, is extremely powerful. They really slice through tissues and meat and muscles and tendons. It's very severe.
Incredibly, Zach keeps on sleeping.
And it felt like I was being dragged. Felt like I was sort of strapped to the front of a jet. Everything started rushing by really, really quickly, and that was the point when I woke up.
Startled, the wolf runs back into the forest.
It was one long, ripping scream. It was blood-curdling.
Zach, what's wrong? What's wrong? What is it?
He kept saying, "Something bit me."
What happened? Something bit you?
But they still have no idea what bit him.
It was at that point that my thermals were getting wet and warm. And he started saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And so I realized that he was bleeding profusely from the face.
I sat there trying to gather myself, and I looked through the darkness to where they were huddled together, and then I saw the wolf.
Yeah! Yeah! Go on!
I was being as big as I could be and as loud as I could be. I had to get it away from my wife and child.
He ran right past us, and we could hear it running into the woods and whacking trees and bushes and stuff. And I was trying to hold Zach and figure out what was going on.
The animal retreats.
The wolf!
And I immediately started panicking. Could kill the whole family.
Hey, baby.
I kept just pulling him down and whispering, You have to stay calm. We have to stay calm. We have to stay quiet. We have to know where it is.
But with only a flashlight, the family has no idea where the wolf is hiding, whether it's vanished or simply biding its time.
Wolves have a marvelous tapetum lucidum, which is the technical name for a membrane in the back of the eye which reflects light. And so wolves can see at night much better than we can.
The wolf is probably watching the family's every move. He will choose the best moment to resume his attack.
I thought we were all gonna die. I thought that there was nothing we could do to stop a wolf that wanted to eat us.
On a canoeing trip to Algonquin Park, Ontario, the DELVENTHAL family has fought off a savage attack by a lone wolf.
Go on!
They're terrified it will strike again.
First thing I found was my paddle. It was the biggest of all of the paddles. And I went back to where he had disappeared and stood there for about half a minute till I was satisfied that he was gone.
You right? Let me see.
My dad came up in front of me and shone the light in my face.
Let me see.
The first thing I saw was the terror and the fear in his eyes. And I could see that his cheek was totally torn through. I just kind of stopped and said, "Oh my God."
I mean, it was slow and it was horrified and hopeless. And it was all there, and the oh my God, and the look on his face. And I knew it was worse than I thought it was.
Again, the hungry wolf emerges from the forest. Now he moves in for the kill.
And my dad turned and charged it and followed it out into the woods.
It was really scary, but I was gonna beat him. I was gonna destroy him.
Go on! Get out of here!
The trees wrapped around him, and he was gone. He disappeared.
Tom, come on!
I thought if he doesn't come back, how am I gonna protect these kids on my own?
My immediate thought was that I wasn't going to see him again.
It was the darkest night I can ever remember, but all of my senses were really, really sharpened, and I felt like I could see exactly where he was.
Armed with his makeshift weapon, Tom now has the upper hand.
Wolves, in all their killing activities, have to respect one thing. They're basically hypochondriacs. Safety for them is paramount.
Self-preservation wins over hunger. The animal retreats, for now. Seizing the moment, the DELVENTHALs make their escape.
Hold that on there. All right, you gotta get out of here. Here we go. Down here, let me toss this. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Hey, Will, Eli, you guys all right? Hey, let's go, baby. Let's go. Tracy, let's go. Zach, hold on.
There was this moment of pushing off the site, and then I remember just going, because I knew at least the wolf couldn't get us now.
The family may have escaped the wolf's jaws, but Zach is still in terrible danger. He's losing blood fast.
Hey, Zach, hold on, son. You'll be all right.
I thought about dying, so I was just sort of peacefully lying in the boat and figured I could slip away now and it would be easy. What changed my thinking was thinking about my family and thinking about how much they would all miss me.
I was very aware that he might have lost a lot of blood, and that there was a lot further to go. We couldn't find our way out, and that was just feeling like incredible powerlessness on my part. I was really angry at myself, frustrated with myself, and frustrated with the situation.
After 3 long hours, the family sees a glimmer of light. They arrive at a lodge, but the hospital is still another 4 hours away. Zach undergoes 4 hours of emergency surgery. His nose is broken in 5 places, and it takes over 80 stitches to repair his badly lacerated face.
Sheer luck that the wolf didn't grab part of the neck. With the tremendous bite force of the wolf, Zach would not have survived that. I'm very lucky.
They took Zachariah into a triage room, and it was that moment. It was the first time that I looked at him, because I thought, okay, now we're safe, and I can see. And his face was just ripped apart.
Even after the doctor had Zach and was doing what he could to put Zach's face back together again, the reaction was, well, it couldn't have been a wolf. And they treated me very much like I was hallucinating, or just a stupid geek from the city, or, you know, somebody who just didn't understand, obviously, because wolves don't do that.
The scars themselves really aren't that visible.
The psychological trauma leads to months of severe panic attacks.
The therapist said, what happened is deep and primal, because you're supposed to be safe when you're asleep. He didn't know it was coming. None of us knew it was coming.
Park rangers decide the lone wolf poses a serious threat to other campers. 5 days after the attack, they find the animal they believe terrorized the DELVENTHALs and shoot it dead. But Zach doesn't blame the wolf for what happened.
I'm not really any more or less afraid of wolves than I was before, and I have a great respect for them and a great admiration for them. But they're always potentially dangerous.
Throughout history, wolf attacks have been the stuff of nightmare and legend. No ordinary creatures. In mythology, they often represented evil, even the Antichrist. Not even death could safeguard people from the wolf's jaws. In 16th century Scotland, bodies were often buried on islands to stop wolves digging them up and eating them. No European settlement, it seemed, was safe. In 1879, in a village in southern Finland, a pair of wolves went on a bloody rampage. As many as 35 children were killed. Eventually, the Finnish army was called in, but the wolves proved elusive. It took 2 long years to halt their terrifying reign. The female wolf was shot dead. The alpha male poisoned. By hunting in packs, wolves are highly efficient killers. Sometimes not even a gun will stop them dead. A woodsman living in Springfield, Missouri in the early 1900s learned this the hard way. Ambushed by a furious wolf pack, he fought a heroic battle for his life, but overpowered before he could reload his rifle. He was later found ripped apart, surrounded by 5 dead wolves. Ever since the first white settlers arrived in North America, wolves have been relentlessly hunted and killed. But in their place, their canine cousin, the coyote, has flourished. Increasingly, the ever-adaptable coyote has moved into urban areas. And increasingly, humans come face to face with them. One afternoon in his yard, Jimmy Hawthorne ran into a wild coyote with rabies.
I couldn't believe what was happening. I knew I'd be bitten. It was scary.
This coyote has lost all sense of reality. He's suffering from rabies. The disease in his brain has eradicated any fear of people. All he wants to do is attack.
Most likely, the coyote encountered a rabid raccoon. They tangled, and the raccoon bit the coyote.
The rabid animal has left his natural habitat behind. He's now in the residential neighborhood of Lenaxa, Virginia, and is a deadly threat to anyone who crosses his path. 47-year-old Jimmy Hawthorne is working in his yard on a lazy Sunday afternoon. His wife is inside, taking a nap.
It was a normal day. I was actually using the lawnmower to blow the leaves off the yard.
Jimmy is completely unaware that he's being watched.
I probably see coyotes once a month, and then when they see you, they're gone. They're scared of humans.
But not this coyote. Driven by the lethal virus, he's desperate to bite anything or anyone.
Rabies virus infection is transmitted in the saliva and often deposited in skin, subcutaneous tissues, or muscle, and then eventually spreads along nerves to the central nervous system.
The diseased coyote closes in on Jimmy.
I was just sort of in my own little world, riding on a piece of equipment, and it startled me. I mean, my first thought was it was a German Shepherd. And then I looked and I said, oh my goodness, it's a coyote.
Horrified, Jimmy realizes this coyote is rabid.
At that point, it was just terror, scary.
Rabies is almost always fatal if not treated immediately.
Well, there have only been 6 survivors of rabies. We don't fully understand why the outcome is always fatal, but clearly the immune response isn't sufficient to clear the viral infection.
It was driving the mole as fast as it would go. The coyote was having no trouble keeping up. The coyote kept circling the mole.
Fueled by a wave of aggression, the coyote seizes opportunity and strikes.
He bit my boot. I felt him bite the boot. I mean, I couldn't believe what was happening. I just remembered that moment of fear, of terror. It was scary.
Luckily, the coyote's bite doesn't pierce Jimmy's thick leather boot. Jimmy needs to make it home before it does. But then, his mower runs out of gas and stops dead.
My thoughts were, oh my goodness, something scares you to death. And And then it's like you have to take care of yourself, protect yourself.
Jimmy must either risk running for his life or taking on the rabid animal.
This animal might weigh 50 pounds, and I weigh 240. If it gets bad enough, you know, I'll just tear him apart with my hand. But I knew I'd be bitten. You don't see animals come up to you. I mean, I've been in the woods my whole life. Deer don't walk up to you. Rabbits don't walk up to you. This animal had no fear of man. He would come around the tractor. You know, I didn't want him to bite me on the back of my leg, and I just turned around and faced him, and he came at me, and I kicked him. That's when he sort of hollered, yipped, and went into the thicket.
Because of his swelling brain, the rabid coyote is suffering terrible headaches. Jimmy's kick further disorients him. Jimmy's bought some time. But only a little.
I looked around and found a big stick about 8 foot long. And I said, well, I can use this to keep him off of it. And he was aggressive, extremely aggressive. Coyotes, canine teeth, are so much longer than, say, a Doberman. They're prepared to hunt and kill.
Wielding the stick, Jimmy scores a direct hit to the coyote's head. The crazed animal retreats, for now. Jimmy races for the house, but the door is locked. His wife still asleep. And the rabid coyote isn't yet done with Jimmy.
I'm knocking on the door, and then I see him running across the front yard, coming back.
The ever more aggressive coyote closes in for the kill. While mowing his lawn one Sunday afternoon, Virginian Jimmy Hawthorne is fought off an attack by a rabid coyote. Locked out of his house, Jimmy's now trapped by the deadly animal. A rabies victim suffers agonizing spasms in the throat, making it almost impossible to swallow. They develop neurological impairment and paralysis, finally progressing to coma, then death. Jimmy pounds on the door one last time to wake up his wife.
And thank goodness she got the door open. And I went in and I told her there's a rabid coyote after me. And I was looking for a gun.
The coyote refuses to give up. The rabies has infused him with blind courage. All he knows is he needs to bite. Jimmy has to end the battle now.
In the initial stages, it's panic, fear, terror.
Honey, you stay inside.
You're scared. And then that went away. Goes from fear to aggression. It almost makes you angry.
Leaving the sanctuary of home, Jimmy goes in search of the deranged animal. But this time, he's prepared.
Just a reflex action. I shot him. And killed him.
When the animal is tested, experts confirm the rabies virus. Thankfully, Jimmy is healthy, but the psychological trauma remains.
When I'd go to bed, I'd close my eyes and I would see the coyote coming at me.
Now, when doing the gardening, Jimmy and his wife are always on guard, just in case.
When the news originally did the story, when it happened, they said, "How do you feel about that?" And I said, "Well, you know, I would have rather been a lottery winner." So it was amazing to me how everything is nice. You're at home. It's a Sunday. You're working on your property. Everything's calm, and then everything turns into chaos. It's scary.
Rabies has terrified people for thousands of years. In the 16th century, a deadly epidemic swept across Europe. Stories of horrific attacks by mad animals foaming at the mouth entered popular folklore. Peasants in the countryside faced the greatest risk, but not even cities were safe. In 1450 in Paris, a pack of wolves, some probably rabid, created blind panic when they breached the city walls. 40 people were bitten and killed. The ferocious pack was lured into the heart of the city, close to Notre Dame Cathedral. There, a mob hell-bent on revenge stoned and speared the wolves to death. While the wolf and coyote have always posed a threat to humans in parts of North America, there's a much more dangerous animal at large. The powerful cougar, also known as a puma or mountain lion, is thought to have killed at least 18 people since records began. Aniela was almost one of them. While on a mountain bike ride with her friend, a cougar pounced and tried to snap her neck.
And you think, this is just a nightmare. I told myself I'd rather die.
The rugged canyons of Whiting Ranch Wilderness Park are a big draw for thrill-seeking mountain bikers. But here, taking a tumble is not the only hazard. The park is home to some spectacular and dangerous wildlife, including the feared cougar.
California Fish and Game gives a range of population from 4,000 to 6,000 cougars in California.
This 110-pound male cougar works alone.
They're very good at being top predators and surviving in the landscape. Their quickness, their agility, their smoothness of movement, they're just good at that.
The cougar has just taken a fresh kill.
They will immediately take them off into the brush, and that gives them cover and allows them to feed in peace. One cougar will have a territory of roughly 30 to 50 or more square miles.
The big cat buries what he doesn't eat for another time. He'll attack anything that threatens his food cache. Even humans. Aniela, a personal trainer and ex-Marine, and her friend Deb Nichols meet up for a biking excursion. They choose Cactus Hill Trail because of its exciting twists and turns.
Ann and I got together because we have common riding styles. We tend to just like to ride hard and not talk a lot. I tend to take up sports where there's usually some rough play.
You have to be willing to get dirty, have to be willing to, get cuts and scrapes and maybe some poison oak along the way. But I love it for the adventure.
But today, Cactus Hill Trail will take them on a journey they won't soon forget. Ann and Debbie are heading straight into a death trap.
We were just kind of, coming into the downhill section. We were going to finish the ride soon. All the climbing is done. And our goal was to make it out before it got dark.
The cougar jealously guards its precious food.
Mountain lions don't move very far from their kills. Once they've cached the kill, they tend to stay relatively nearby.
Just up the trail, another cyclist discovers an abandoned bicycle. He has no idea who it belongs to.
As I was first turning down that trail, Cactus Trail, when I came around one of the blind corners, we actually saw a man standing with his bike and then the second bike with no person. And my instinct was that they had stopped and that his friend was going to the bathroom. So honestly, I didn't really take it very seriously.
The cougar's heightened sense of hearing picks up the noisy cyclists. They're invading his territory. Debbie falls behind. The distance between them has made both more vulnerable. Thinking his food cache is threatened, the mountain lion moves into attack mode.
As I was moving down the trail, what caught my attention was I saw a flash of movement. I saw kind of a reddish-brown fur. Initially thought that I had startled a deer, and then the impact.
The cougar can leap a great distance in the realm of 20 to 30 feet and will jump on their back and bite the back of the neck.
The only thing I can liken it to would be if you're riding your bike and you got hit by a car from behind. That's what it felt like to me. I mean, the impact was unbelievable. I was face down and he was trying to bite at the back of my neck. And I knew, okay, this isn't a deer.
The lion's impetus is to kill as quickly and as efficiently as possible because that reduces its own energy expenditure and its own chance of harm.
I just couldn't believe that had just happened to me. And you think, this is just a nightmare. This can't really be happening. You can't wrap your brain around it.
Ann's helmet protects her for now. But the cougar is determined to win this battle.
If they don't kill with the first bite, they may move their bite gradually around to the front of the throat and take the prey down by asphyxiation.
You know, it was like nothing I've ever experienced before in my life. It was so completely overpowering. I could feel it actually hanging on to my shoulders. The lion's claws were dug into each of my shoulders, and he was trying to bite at the back of my neck. He was able to manipulate and move me around, release his grip and grab on again and just drag me.
I could hear Ann's cry, screaming, and it sounded unusual. It sounded like a siren over and over, and then just within an instant, I came around the corner and saw the mountain lion.
Debbie needs to think fast. In sheer desperation, she tries to scare the animal away.
He didn't even flinch.
They're very focused predators. They don't get distracted easily. They have to finish what they start.
Hey!
Risking her own life, Debbie does the only thing she can think of.
When I grabbed her leg, I thought, it was going to be something that would, alarm him at least, but it didn't. It didn't seem to faze him.
All it would have taken is one swipe from that lion to take Debbie out. And she put herself in that situation where that was a very strong possibility.
And I, had a death grip on her calf area. I was just amazed at his strength.
I just remember watching her face and watching her hanging onto my leg and screaming at the top of her lungs.
Debbie's frantic attempts aren't working. She can't pry her friend loose.
I was very aware that he just basically ripped my face off.
An adult male cougar's powerful jaws are comprised of 30 razor-sharp teeth. Measuring as long as 2 inches, these massive canines are used to deliver a lethal bite. The other teeth are specialized in slicing and shearing flesh.
They're able to crush leg bones, femurs, large bones, and commonly eat the entire skull. They're very, very strong.
Anne is fighting a highly motivated killer and losing.
To be honest, that was the only time. It was for a split second, but I basically told myself I'd rather die.
I don't remember anything but his tail smacking in his eyes and thinking, I'm so close and I'm screaming so loud, why don't you let go of her face?
A group of cyclists up the trail hear Debbie's screams. They arrive with Anne's life hanging by a thread.
I can't hold her much longer. I kept repeating that. I can't hold her much longer.
One of the cyclists calls for help as the others join in the fight. But it's almost too late. The animal's large canines sink into Anne's throat.
Once he locked down, things started to go black. I started kind of seeing stars. And I knew that was going to be the end.
Aniela is now on the edge of death, and her friend is powerless to help. Aniela has been savagely attacked by a cougar in a California national park. Her best friend and 2 passing cyclists struggle to save her before it's too late.
Dear God, please give me the strength to hold on to her. He's eventually gonna let go.
But the cougar is determined to finish the job.
Their focus is intense, even to the point of ignoring a certain amount of negative stimuli, rocks and sticks and things like that. They're very focused, but they do recognize that they're getting hit, and at some point they potentially will give up.
One of the rocks finally hits its mark. The cougar relents and lets go. The attack may be over, but Anne's struggle to survive isn't. She needs medical attention urgently.
Stay down. Stay down. Give me a short.
When I came to, I was lying on my back at that point, and I felt as though I was drowning. And we realized that it was blood.
Come on.
Debbie is also fearful the cougar may want to finish what he started.
Hold her neck still.
Immediately thought, I just want to get out of this area. I felt very uneasy that he probably hadn't left, but that, he was close by.
They don't get rewarded by giving up easily. All of their evolutionary history dictates that once they start, they have to stick with it.
The paramedics arrive at the scene, but they fear she may not make it to the hospital in time.
My neck hurt so bad. Just every muscle was just torn. That's what it felt like. You know, it was so painful to even try to lift my head an inch.
And I just said to her, Ann, you're gonna make it, you're gonna be fine.
It's gonna be okay.
The cougar stays in the area, still protecting his food cache, while Ann is airlifted to the hospital. Surgeons tell Ann that the cougar's bites were millimeters away from ending her life.
My plastic surgeon told me he found 40 bite wounds to my neck alone, and then I had obviously severe wounds to my face. It wasn't gonna be a quick fix. This is not like one surgery, I'm back to normal. And then I realized I'm not ever gonna be back to normal.
Later that evening, park rangers locate the owner of the abandoned bicycle. He had been making his way down Cactus Hill Trail when his chain came off. Unaware, he was being watched. The animal struck with deadly force. The cougar likely snapped his victim's spinal cord in one bite.
Gosh, I can't believe that I'm still here. It kind of helped me to be so thankful that I was still alive, to realize that here this adult man had been killed, and I made it.
A team of park rangers has no choice but to track the man-eater. He's shot dead not 50 yards from his first kill. Unwilling until death to give it up.
I think they're gorgeous animals. I have a lot of respect for what they're capable of, appreciating that they need their space too. An experience like this obviously makes you appreciate your friends. Debbie, specifically, she risked her own life. That's true friendship.
Their domestic cousins may be household pets, but in the wild, hunger or disease can occasionally drive these animals to target human prey. These people all came face to face with some of North America's most feared killer cats and dogs. They were lucky to survive.
We were aware that there's mountain lions, but I just would have never thought that they would turn on me.
The general advice is don't run, don't play dead, fight, because your life depends on it.